now has a mayor who is of Muslim extraction. His name is Sadiq Khan. He was elected over the weekend, and it's interesting to see how that he's a representative. He's a leader, actually, in the Labor Party. He was a human rights lawyer. His dad was a bus driver in Pakistan, or Pakistan, if you will. He will be the first Muslim to lead the capital city of Britain. But more than just that, he is now easily one of the most prominent Muslim politicians in the Western Hemisphere. Okay, how does that make an American audience feel? How does that make an English audience feel? Now, let's be clear. There are certain pockets of the United States that if you look at the city as a whole, you'll say, wow, is America just like that? And then you realize, no, it's not. I mean, we have our cities here in the United States that are clearly left of center or right of center. I was having a delightful conversation last week at the bank with a young woman who just came here. I almost said immigrated. She came here from Kentucky to California, actually to be with a friend. It was a very, very touching story. I won't go into all the details there. But she was describing what she likes about California, and she said it's not as conservative as it is in Kentucky. And my response to her was, I said, well, you know, I'm leaning a little more conservative than most people. And she said, well, here's what I meant. What I meant is the conservative people in California aren't as uptight about it as they are in Kentucky. And I thought, okay, fair enough. She said, yeah, I like the fact that we have a lot of difference in California, and I'm really enjoying that here. Fair enough. Okay, we can see our different parts of the country. So if you were to look at London, the capital of Britain, and say, is this, I mean, does that mean that we're going to see, you know, ISIS take over in the UK? Not by a long shot. As a matter of fact, it's really just more a reflection of who lives there rather than what is happening in the United Kingdom. If you look at the population, the census data in London, about 25% of the people who live in London are foreign-born. Now, this is something that struck me, especially back to that San Francisco high school example about how they wanted to fix the elections because they were tired of all the Asian girls winning office and they wanted to have a Hispanic boy be the vice president of the freshman class, which is just... Poor Tamara, she's got a bruise on her hand from the face palming that she does when we talk about some of the stories here. You should just see, I see more of the top of her head because she's just got her face right down on the desk. It's like, is that real? Are you kidding me? Like, yeah, you really are. So I'm glad she has a little bun in her hair so I can see she's still there because she's kind of short. But anyway, these things are definitely happening in these public schools. Not so in London. I mean, the people spoke and made their voices heard at the ballot box. 1/8 of the population of the city of London are Muslim. And you're talking about Mayor Khan now is not the first Muslim to hold an office in Europe. Sajid Javid is the British Secretary for State Business. They've had a Muslim mayor in the Netherlands there also, in Rotterdam for 6-7 years. So it's not that big a deal in that sense, but it is a big deal when you consider the fact that in Europe right now, because of the crisis with the immigrants and the refugees, and that there's that thin line between the two, there are definitely some people in Syria, in Iraq, in Iran who are refugees, who are being driven from their homeland because of their faith. The overwhelming majority of these people are Christian. But there are some Muslim who are on the receiving end of that too. Now you would argue and say, wait, more Muslims are attacked than Christians. That's true also, but that's a separate conversation. By definition, there are more Muslims than Christians in these areas, so of course you would expect more Muslims to be attacked by ISIS. Just there's more targets, if you will. But for those who are being driven out because of religious persecution, it's the Christians who are taking it the worst. And they're the ones who are being driven out, which is why my voice is joining with others here in the United States and wondering why the State Department is making such a big stink here in the United States of accepting Muslim refugees but not allowing Christian refugees to come here. Because Muslim refugees in the Middle East have far more options than Christians do. So that being a given, and you already know that, that being a given, then you can imagine what the press has been like in the Middle East, and it's been rather quiet here in the U.S. on this issue, but when you look at the election results in London and say, oh my gosh, Sadiq Khan, a very prominent Muslim and a labor leader, and part of the Labor Party there, you can imagine that there was a lot of question about religion, about ethnicity. I mean, there hasn't been a big attack in Britain since 2005, and if you go through London compared to, say, places like Paris, because you might be saying, well, wait a minute, 2015 we had the attack, in Paris, and